Welcome to Infidelity Truths. Before we dive into today's gripping story, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more thrilling stories just for you. Let's begin.
Blake Morrison had everything planned out for that Friday. He'd leave the office at 5, pick up Connor from school, stop by the grocery store to buy the ingredients for that special dinner Vanessa loved, and finally have a quiet night before Rachel's big wedding on Saturday. At 38, Blake was the kind of guy who valued routine and predictability. 12 years of marriage to Vanessa had built a comfortable life in the Seattle suburbs. A 3-bedroom house with a manicured lawn, a 9-year-old son who played baseball on weekends, and a stability he believed was unshakable. But over the past 6 months, small cracks had started to appear in that solid foundation. Vanessa, an event coordinator who had always been communicative and present, now spent hours glued to her phone, quietly laughing at messages she quickly closed whenever Blake walked into the room. She came up with excuses to go out on Saturdays, claiming last-minute emergencies with clients, weddings needing urgent adjustments, or vendors who could only meet on weekends. Blake had mentioned her odd behavior a few times, trying to sound casual, but Vanessa always had a quick, convincing explanation, rolling her eyes as if he were overreacting. "You're just stressed about work, honey. I'm just busy. It's peak season for events." Blake wanted to believe her, but his gut kept screaming that something was wrong. That Friday morning, as Blake drove down Interstate 5 toward the office, his phone buzzed in the car mount. He glanced quickly at the screen before turning his eyes back to traffic. It was a text from Vanessa. Strange, he thought. She rarely messaged him during work hours. He stopped at a red light and unlocked his phone to read it. What appeared on the screen made his heart stop for a full second. "Can't wait to see you at the hotel after the party. I'll be wearing that blue dress you love. My husband will be drunk with the groomsmen. He won't even notice when I disappear." Blake read the message once, twice, 3 times. Each word burned like acid. She'd sent it to him by mistake. Vanessa thought she was texting someone else, her lover, planning to meet him during her own sister's wedding. Blake felt a wave of heat rise up his neck, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. The light turned green, but he didn't move, ignoring the honking behind him. Finally, he pulled over to the shoulder and parked, trying to process what he'd just discovered. Anger came first, furious and scorching inside. Then came humiliation, imagining Vanessa laughing at him with another man, openly planning to betray him at her own family's wedding. But Blake wasn't the type to get paralyzed by emotion. He was a man of action, quick decisions, and his mind was already working. He grabbed his phone and called Trevor Jameson, his college friend who now worked as a divorce attorney. Trevor answered on the second ring. "Blake? Hey man, everything okay?" Blake got straight to the point. "Trevor, I need urgent help. I just found out my wife is cheating on me. She accidentally texted me about planning to cheat on me tomorrow at her sister's wedding. I need advice now." There was a pause on the other end. Then Trevor replied in a professional, serious tone. "Man, I'm so sorry. Look, if she's planning this so openly, you need to act fast. I can start preparing the paperwork today, but you need to confront her and get a clear admission. The more evidence, the better. I can have the papers ready by Monday morning." Blake thanked him and hung up, but he knew he wasn't going to wait until Monday. He needed to confront Vanessa immediately. He needed to hear it from her own mouth, see her reaction, understand just how deep this betrayal went. He made a U-turn and drove straight home, arriving at 9:30 in the morning. Vanessa's car was in the garage. She must have been working from home as she usually did on Fridays. Blake walked in through the front door, slamming it hard enough to announce his presence. Vanessa appeared from the kitchen wearing a loose robe and holding a coffee mug, her eyes wide with surprise. "Blake, what are you doing home? Are you okay?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his phone, opened the message she'd sent him, and turned the screen toward her. "Care to explain this?" Vanessa looked at the screen and all the color drained from her face instantly. The coffee mug trembled in her hand, hot coffee spilling onto the counter. "Blake, that's not, I can explain." He stepped forward, his voice cold and controlled despite the rage boiling inside. "Then explain. Explain why you're planning to meet another man during your sister's wedding. Explain why you mentioned a specific dress that he loves. Explain why you think I'll be so drunk I won't even notice you disappearing. Go ahead, Vanessa. Explain it to me." She set the mug down on the counter with shaking hands, buying time. It was a stupid joke, Blake. I was testing you, seeing if you paid attention to my messages." Blake let out a short, bitter laugh. "A joke. You mentioned the blue dress that he loves. I didn't even know you had a new blue dress. You mentioned a hotel. What's its name, Vanessa? How long has this been going on?" Vanessa started crying, tears streaming down her face. But Blake stood still, waiting. She sat down in the kitchen chair, her shoulders slumped, defeated. "His name is Kyle. He's a freelance photographer I hired for some corporate events over the past few months. It started after a happy hour in April. I was stressed. He gave me attention, and it just happened." Blake's stomach churned. 5 months. She'd been cheating on him for 5 months. How many times? Vanessa wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "I don't know, about 8 times. Always in hotels. He never came here, I swear." Blake ran his hand through his hair, trying to stay in control. "And you thought it would be a good idea to keep this going at your sister's wedding? In front of your family? Right under my nose?" Vanessa looked at him, pleading. "Blake, I'll end it with him. I swear I'll end it today. It was a terrible mistake. I'm so sorry. Please, can we talk? Can we try therapy? Anything? Think of Connor." The mention of their son made Blake clench his teeth. "You should have thought of Connor before sleeping with another man 8 times. You should have thought of me, of our marriage, of our family. But you didn't. So now you'll hear what's going to happen." He stepped closer to the table, looking her straight in the eyes. "You'll go to Rachel's wedding tomorrow. You'll smile for the photos, greet the family, pretend we're the perfect couple because I won't ruin her day over your betrayal. But Monday morning, you'll sign the divorce papers my lawyer is preparing right now. If you try to cause a scene, if you try to expose me or lie to your family, I'll show that message to everyone, to your parents, to Rachel, to your uncles, to everyone. You get to choose how you walk out of this." Vanessa stood up abruptly, grabbing Blake's arm. "No, please, Blake, I love you. It was just a mistake, a rough patch. We can get through this. Lots of couples do. Don't throw everything away, please." Blake pulled away from her touch, repulsed. "You love me. You love me so much you planned to cheat on me during your sister's wedding. You laughed at me with another man for 5 months. No, Vanessa, you love the stability I give you. The house, the comfortable life, but you don't love me, and I can't look at you the same way anymore." He left the kitchen, went upstairs, and locked himself in his office, calling Trevor again to confirm the next steps. Vanessa stayed in the kitchen crying alone, but Blake felt no pity, only anger, betrayal, and a cold determination to move on. Saturday arrived cloudy and cold. Typical November weather in Seattle. Blake woke up early, put on the gray suit Vanessa had picked out months ago for the wedding, and went downstairs for coffee. Connor was already awake, excited to see Aunt Rachel get married. Vanessa was in the kitchen wearing a robe, her eyes puffy from crying all night. They barely spoke. Blake took Connor out for breakfast, leaving Vanessa alone to get ready. When they returned at 10, Vanessa was dressed in the blue dress Blake now hated, heavy makeup trying to hide signs of sleeplessness. In the car on the way to the church, the silence was thick. Connor chattered happily in the back seat, oblivious to the tension between their parents. The ceremony was beautiful, held in a historic downtown Seattle church decorated with white flowers and live music. Blake drank more than usual, not because he wanted to get drunk, but because he needed to numb the anger that grew every time he looked at Vanessa. She moved through the room, laughing with cousins, chatting with guests, playing the perfect sister-in-law. No one suspected a thing. Blake danced with Connor, talked to Vanessa's father, positioning herself strategically. Blake watched from a distance, leaning against the bar, a glass of whiskey in hand. Rachel turned her back, counted to 3, and tossed the bouquet high. Vanessa jumped higher than anyone else, stretching her arms, and caught the white flowers with a triumphant smile. The other women applauded, and Rachel ran over to hug her sister. "You're going to have so much luck, Nessa." Vanessa smiled, holding the bouquet to her chest, her eyes searching the crowd for Blake. When she met his gaze, her smile faltered. Blake raised his glass in a silent bitter toast and downed the drink in one gulp. The party ended near midnight. Blake drove home in silence, Connor asleep in the back seat, Vanessa quiet beside him, still holding the bouquet. When they arrived, Blake carried Connor inside and tucked him into bed, removing the boy's shoes and pulling the blanket over him. He stood there for a moment, watching his son sleep peacefully, and his heart ached. Connor didn't deserve this, but Blake knew staying in a broken marriage would be worse for the boy in the long run. He went downstairs and found Vanessa in the living room, still dressed, the bouquet on the coffee table. But what caught Blake's attention were the 3 large suitcases by the stairs and a stack of papers on the dining table. Vanessa looked at the suitcases, confused. "Blake, what's this?" He crossed his arms, leaning against the wall. "Your things. I spent yesterday afternoon packing them, and those papers on the table are the divorce documents Trevor prepared. You'll sign them Monday morning at his office, 9 o'clock. Don't be late." Vanessa stepped forward, desperate. "Blake, don't do this. I caught the bouquet today. It's a sign. We can start over." Blake let out a cold, humorless laugh. "You caught the bouquet. That's true. They say it's a symbol of luck and love. But you know what I caught while you smiled and pretended to be the perfect wife? I caught the divorce papers. I caught my dignity back. I caught control of my life back. So go ahead, keep that bouquet as a reminder of the day you destroyed our marriage." Vanessa started crying again, collapsing to her knees. "Please, Blake, think it over. I made a mistake, but I can change. Don't abandon me like this. Don't take Connor from me." Blake knelt in front of her, looking into her red, swollen eyes. "You won't lose Connor completely, Vanessa. He'll spend some weekends with you once you get yourself together, but primary custody is mine. Trevor's already arranged everything. You betrayed 12 years of marriage for a photographer who probably didn't even know you had a son. You don't have emotional stability right now. So get up, grab your bags, and go to your mom's. We'll settle the rest on Monday." Vanessa stayed there, kneeling, crying softly. But Blake had already stood up and walked upstairs, closing his bedroom door behind him. He locked it, something he'd never done in 12 years of marriage, and sat on the bed emotionally and physically exhausted. He heard Vanessa sobbing downstairs for another half hour, then the sound of the front door opening and closing, her car starting, and finally silence. Monday morning, Blake dropped Connor off at school without explaining where his mom was, simply saying she'd gone away for work. At exactly 9, he was at Trevor's office. Vanessa arrived 10 minutes later wearing sunglasses to hide her puffy eyes. Trevor handled everything professionally, explaining the terms, the division of assets, and Connor's custody arrangement. Vanessa tried to negotiate a few clauses, but she had no strength left to fight. She signed the papers with trembling hands, never looking at Blake. When she left the office, Blake felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. 12 years ended in half an hour of signatures. Trevor put a hand on Blake's shoulder. "You did the right thing, man. It'll hurt for a while, but you'll get through it." Blake nodded, though he wasn't sure of anything. The following weeks were chaotic. Blake had to explain to Connor that mom and dad wouldn't live together anymore, that sometimes adult relationships just don't work, but that they both still loved him very much. Connor cried and asked hard questions, but Blake answered honestly in a way appropriate for his age. Vanessa moved permanently into her mother's house, 2 hours from Seattle, and started therapy. She tried calling Blake a few times in those early weeks, but he never answered. There was nothing left to say. The divorce moved quickly because Vanessa didn't contest anything. She knew she had no ground to stand on. Blake kept the house, primary custody of Connor, and most of the assets. Vanessa kept her car and some savings. When it came time to finalize everything, Blake learned through Trevor that Kyle, the photographer, had vanished from Vanessa's life as soon as he found out she was married and had a son. Apparently, Kyle had thought Vanessa was single and believed her husband's stories were just playful lies to keep him interested. Once the truth came out, he blocked her on all social media and stopped replying to her messages. Vanessa was left alone without a husband, without a lover, facing her shame. Vanessa's family found out everything through Rachel, who confronted her sister after Blake discreetly told her what had happened. Rachel was furious, feeling that Vanessa had tainted the memory of her own wedding by planning to betray Blake during the celebration. Vanessa's parents, George and Patricia, tried to mediate, but even they were deeply disappointed in their daughter. Blake kept a polite distance from her family, focusing solely on Connor's well-being. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Blake started dating again. He met Diane, a colleague from the accounting department at his company, a 35-year-old woman who was also divorced and understood the complexities of relationships that hadn't worked out. They started having coffee together, then dinners, and eventually Blake introduced Diane to Connor, who liked her. Diane was patient, respectful, and never tried to replace Vanessa in Connor's life. Blake began to feel that maybe there was hope of rebuilding something real and genuine. Vanessa, on the other hand, faced a difficult few months. She lost some clients when word got around, and her reputation in the event planning industry suffered. She continued seeing Connor on alternating weekends, but their relationship was strained. Connor asked questions Vanessa couldn't answer honestly, and guilt consumed her. She tried apologizing to Blake through messages several times, but he never replied. There was no forgiveness there, only acceptance of what had happened and the determination to move forward. The last time Blake saw Vanessa was at Connor's 4th grade graduation, a year and a half after the divorce. She looked thinner, her hair was shorter, with a tired appearance. They exchanged polite greetings, took photos with Connor, and then went their separate ways. Blake went home with Connor and Diane, who now lived with them, and they threw a small celebration. Vanessa went back to her mother's house alone. Blake never regretted acting quickly that Friday. The mistaken text was a gift in disguise, a revelation that saved him from years of lies and humiliation. He learned that trust, once broken in that way, can never be fully restored. And that sometimes the best revenge isn't doing anything to the other person. It's simply rebuilding your life with dignity and moving on. Vanessa caught the bouquet at her sister's wedding, the symbol of luck and love.
Blake got the divorce papers, the symbol of freedom and a fresh start. And in the end, it was Blake who found true luck by walking away from a marriage built on lies and making space for something genuine and real to enter his life.